Back in high school, I struggled hard. I had a stepdad who adopted me and then ignored me my whole life, and a mom who was wrapped up in making his life perfect. Yeah, he was what some might call a textbook narcissist, with my mom as his flying monkey, Wizard of Oz reference. Anyway, school was a difficult time for me, and I had a lot of anxiety and a hard time focusing. I attended all my classes, and was always doing very well on my assignments, but had trouble completing them. My guidance counselor was the same all through high school, and every year would start with a meeting with her, and I would explain I needed more help, because I was struggling to focus. She brushed me off every time, stating that I obviously wasn't trying hard enough because I had no excuse, since my stepdad, adopted dad, was a social worker for the school board and personal friend of hers. Yet it was awful. At the end of high school we had our obligatory meeting about what colleges/universities or trade schools to apply to. I told her I was interested in psychology, and would like to be a counselor or to teach psychology. This woman scoffed. Literally scoffed at me. She said, and I quote, "Please do not apply to university. It would be a huge disappointment for you. You are not university material, and you may be better with a community college or even certificate in administration." Now let me say there is nothing wrong with going to community college or getting a certificate in something. Nothing at all. But this woman's words would haunt me my whole life. I wanted to pursue something I was very interested in, and she essentially told me I wasn't smart enough or capable enough to do it. Fast forward to my late 20s. I worked at a variety of small jobs here and there and became very depressed. I finally decided one day that I'm applying for university. Well, I got in and I graduated with honors. So I went to teacher's college for another bachelor degree. Again, graduated with honors. And about 5 years ago, I finally finished my master's in behavioral psychology. 2 years ago stepdad died, and who was at the visitation? My old guidance counselor. She came right over and started talking to me immediately like she knew me, like we're old friends. I cut her off and said, "I'm so sorry, you must be confusing me with someone else." She looked absolutely shocked and said, "I was your guidance counselor for 4 years. And I just shook my head and gave the best blank look I could give, shrugged and said, "Sorry, I honestly don't remember you." When I left, she looked a bit confused and disappointed. I think she had hoped for me to have all of these good memories of her, how helpful she was to me as a teen. But nope. I wanted her to feel that she was nothing to me. Had zero effect, even though she did affect me. I wasn't letting her know that. I felt pretty good about that. Edit. To anyone wondering, I now teach psychology to future counselors. So I'm doing what I originally wanted, and that made this so much sweeter. Second edit. My mom had run into her a few times at the grocery store before this, and has bragged about my accomplishments, so I didn't have to tell her about them. She knew I was successful. Since she already knew, I pretended she was nobody to me, to ensure she understood she contributed nothing. Also those who say she helped me in the end and she was right. No. I asked her to help me for 4 years and got nothing. She laughed at my dreams and goals. She did not do her job. She failed as a guidance counselor and, frankly, also as a decent human being. Story 2. Fire me for speaking up? Enjoy going out of business. Many years ago, I worked at an automotive repair shop that was owned by a very nasty person. This person actually had 2 shops that he ran, and the best way I can describe him was as a tyrant. Both shops had cameras, and he would watch us work from the comfort of his home. If he saw something he didn't like, such as taking a 5-minute smoke break, or not sweeping for half a minute during downtime, or if he just wanted to bust balls, he would call the shop and harass us. Or better yet, at times, show up and harass us in person. In addition, he would regularly berate us for no reason, threaten to not pay us because the shops weren't busy, and would have an absolute meltdown if you dared question his authority. It was spectacular, in the worst of ways. After working for him for a few months, and dealing with his shenanigans, and getting sick of pointless arguments with him, I started reconsidering my employment there. Around the same time, the owner decided to move me from one shop to the other, really for no reason other than likely to try push me out, as that was what he did with the few people that I had already worked with. Odd coincidence being that I had not discussed my thoughts of leaving with anyone, but I digress. I genuinely disliked the idea of working at this other shop. It was older and a bit run down, plus it was in a pretty terrible area with high crime. But I wanted to line something up elsewhere before I jumped ship. so I made the move. This is where the beginning of the end started for Mr. Owner. Once I got settled into the new shop, I got to talking with my fellow technicians. As it turns out, the owner was unsurprisingly a racist scumbag, and every single one of the employees at this location, aside from me, was African American. I'll spare you the details, but let's just say it's a miracle that the owner came into the shop, said what he said, and walked out breathing. In addition, he would regularly send people home with no pay for the day just to be an ass. This went on for a few weeks, him coming by, being nasty to all of us, and I was over it, and was just about to leave as I had lined up other employment. The other techs were also over it. I went to give the owner my 2-week notice via phone, discreetly, which I should have known wasn't a great idea, and instead of discussing it like a human, he decided to come down and talk face to face. Well, our friend was so incensed that I put my notice in that he forced me to clock out and go home, and also forced 2 other techs who decided to stand up for me to do the same. I decided that I had enough of this guy's shit, and that not only did he deserve to have some kind of reciprocation against him, but the other techs deserved better than to continually being walked on. So I filed a complaint with the Department of Labor, and outlined everything. Within a few days they had launched an investigation, and of course the owner found out who filed the complaint and called the shop, and gave me hell about it, stupidly, because the phones he had were on recorded lines. Guess who I had requested to listen to that conversation? In the end, I was terminated by him prior to my 2 weeks being up, as were the 2 techs who stood behind me. I filed for unemployment, which he fought me on by filing appeals with a judge, then not showing up 3 times in a row. This prompted the judge to bar him from requesting appeals against me, and granting me full unemployment pay. Months later I got a written letter from him extending an apology, and offered to work for him again. 2 months later, I got a letter from the DOL saying that the investigation was closed, and that he had been found guilty of multiple charges and was barred from operating a shop or any other business in the state for several years.